For 20 years, everyone in town knew the legend of St. Michael's Church. A local pastor walked inside one evening and simply vanished. Locals claim that if you listen closely after midnight, you can still hear someone praying from the empty sanctuary. One rainy night, a young man named Ethan stood outside those wooden doors. He was there to test a specific hypothesis. If the presence of God is real, then fear has no logical authority over us. He took a deep breath, opened the heady door, and stepped out of the storm into the pitch-black vacuum of the abandoned church. While most of us aren't exploring abandoned buildings at midnight, we all know exactly what it feels like to step into the dark. We all experience moments where anxiety spikes, logic fails, and fear paralyzes our decision-making. But panic often follows a specific internal logic, which raises a clinical question. What exact psychological mechanism does fear use to weaponize our own minds against us? This blueprint represents a sequence we can call the anatomy of a spiritual attack. It maps the distinct phases that target the mind when a person is most vulnerable. Identifying these stages as they happen offers a way to deconstruct the experience before the pressure becomes overwhelming. Ethan's experience in the sanctuary provides the evidence for how this process functions. Standing in the dark sanctuary, the sequence begins with a single whisper echoing through the silence, calling Ethan's name. This network illustrates the tactic of a personalized threat. By making the target feel uniquely singled out, the mechanism of fear severs the victim's perceived connection to outside help. Back in the church, the lights flicker on to reveal an old woman sitting in the last pew. She tells Ethan he shouldn't have come, pointing to the altar to warn him that the darkness knows his name, right before she vanishes completely. This deception serves a psychological purpose. It forces the victim to abandon objective reality and retreat inward into a state of total isolation. This isolation is the prerequisite for fear to gain total control over a person's perspective. Inside, the walls are covered in dozens of photographs of past victims. Underneath every single picture are the same words: "He stopped praying." Then comes the final psychological blow. Ethan finds a photograph showing his own face, marked with a future death date, as a voice whispers that he is completely alone. This is the illusion of inevitability, the stage where the darkness presents fabricated evidence to make defeat feel like a mathematical certainty. Because darkness cannot physically force a surrender, it relies on this illusion to trick the victim into giving up their own faith, completing the attack from the inside. The door slams shut. Ethan falls to his knees in terror. But in that moment, he remembers the Bible verse he saw on the altar downstairs, Psalm 27:1. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" We can see the physics of the counterattack here. As Ethan speaks the verse aloud, the room reacts violently. The darkness screams as it loses its grip on his mind. Vocalizing objective spiritual truth shatters the isolated echo chamber that fear requires to survive. Ethan stands up. He walks directly toward a glowing wooden cross at the end of the hallway. With every step he takes, the shadows recede until they are permanently neutralized. Inviting the light into the space effortlessly displaces the darkness, removing the need for a direct struggle against the shadows. The storm eventually breaks. As morning sunlight floods the destroyed sanctuary, Ethan returns to the altar and discovers the lost pastor's old journal. The final page reveals the pastor's last written insight. Darkness only has the power we grant it when we believe the lie that we're alone. This same pattern applies to real-world anxiety or spiritual pressure. When fear attempts to isolate you and project a hopeless outcome, you are seeing a tactical process in action. Active faith serves as the ultimate countermeasure. It grounds us in the reality that Jesus never left, removing the reason to panic on fear's terms. The light of Christ is objectively stronger than any darkness. No matter what fear claims, you are never truly alone.